I've seen many situations in this life that convinced me that nothing in this world is accidental. Each encounter or seemingly random acquaintance serve a specific purpose. Sometimes we need people to wake us up and help us change the direction of our lives. Sometimes to cheer us up and remind us who we are. And sometimes it's the people we meet for a brief moment that leave us with the memories we'll cherish for a long time. Whatever it is, we all learn something from each other by sharing valuable knowledge or experience with each other. Just recently, I was supposed to go on a long train ride from Seattle to Chicago. I've been retired for a long time. My wife passed away 4 years ago, and my daughter got married and moved to Illinois. Because of the distance, we rarely saw each other, mainly over Christmas. But this year, my grandson was graduating from college, and he really wanted to see me at the ceremony, and also to introduce me to his girlfriend. I don't think there's a better reason for a sudden weekend trip. I locked the house, warned the neighbors about my absence, and asked them to water my yard flowers, because they were all I had left as a memory of my beloved Jessica. Taking my seat on the train, I found that my fellow travelers were a young couple with their 8-year-old son, Nate. Since we all had a long way to go, we got to know each other and chatted a lot about various things in order to pass the time. When the evening came and all the passengers started getting ready to go to sleep, the boy couldn't calm down. He laid out his favorite toys and started playing with them. The first thing that caught my eye was that Nate didn't have a single car in his toys, but only animal figures, mostly tigers. The boy purred, growled, snorted, diving headlong into his fantasies, and did not react to his parents' requests to go to bed. I was willing to help a little and asked Nate's permission to play Predators with him, to which he gladly agreed. When the boy found out that I had seen a real tiger, he was insanely surprised, because, as it turned out, it was his big dream. Do you want me to tell you the amazing story of how I met a tiger? I asked the boy. You bet! I have only seen wild animals on TV. Tigers are so mean, aren't they? How did it not eat you? Nate asked in surprise. Please tell me, Grandpa Noah. The boy lay down on the pillow and was looking forward to the story. So I had to plunge for a few minutes into the days of my youth in order to once again experience this special story. You know, Nate, tigers are not actually mean animals, but they can be when they're protecting themselves or their offspring. If they feel danger or need to fight for territory or food. Being a very young guy, I fell in love with a charming girl named Jessica. We got married when she was in her final year of medical school. After graduation, Jessica was sent to work in the amazing country of Cambodia, lost in the real jungle. Of course, I went along with my wife, thinking of our trip as a kind of interesting adventure. We settled in a cozy wooden house in a small province, not far from the mountains covered with a dense forest. Jessica worked from dusk till dawn. She treated children and sometimes even adults, since there was a shortage of doctors in the country and she knew how to treat adults too. Meanwhile, I was engaged in agriculture, working in the rice fields. The fauna of Cambodia is very rich. We often encountered monkeys, wild boars, poisonous snakes, waterfowl, flamingos, pelicans, and even large crocodiles. We also heard from the local residents about the bears, wild boars, and tigers, which were illegally hunted. Unfortunately, I'm sure there are still cases of poaching of these beautiful and powerful cats, although their population has drastically decreased and is severely protected by law. Tigers were hunted for their skins, teeth, bones, even internal organs, which were used in folk medicine. And since it was possible to earn good money for catching the predator, the local men often organized entire camps for hunting these animals, aiming to make an easy profit. I heard a lot of stories about the plight of the tigers in these parts, but I never saw them with my own eyes until an incident happened to me that is hard to believe. It was during the weekend. Jessica was cooking dinner, and I was cleaning outside the house. Suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a figure of an animal that flashed by the edge of the forest. First, I thought that I was seeing things, but a minute later, I saw the bushes stir again. And then, a real tigress came out of the forest. It stood still, looking at me intently, but it didn't seem to be in a hurry to attack. I understood that there was no point in running, but my heart was bursting out of my chest with fear. When the visitor turned around and disappeared for a moment into the thicket of the forest, I noticed that the fur on its hind leg was stained with blood. The tigress was injured, but after a few seconds it returned again, and I stood there, as if rooted to the spot, trying to comprehend what was happening. The tigress was holding its little tiger cub, no more than 1 month old, in her teeth. The tigress looked into my eyes again, laid the cub on the grass, and quickly disappeared into the forest. The tiger cub was screaming and calling for its mother, but the tigress went away, leaving the striped ball of fur alone with me. I was standing and watching it for some time, not daring to approach, trying to understand what the tigress did and why. But when I came to my senses a little and approached the cub, I realized that the tigress had left it in the hopes that I would take care of the cub, because the wounded tigress knew that she could not do it. I carefully picked up the foundling from the grass and carried it into the house. When Jessica saw me with the tiger cub in my hands, she almost fainted. I had to briefly tell her what had happened in the last 10 minutes. Of course, it was hard to believe, but a real live tiger cub in the house did not leave much room for doubt. After some discussion, we decided to keep it until it gained some strength, and then released it into the forest. Days and months passed quickly. Lucky, as we named the tiger cub, quickly got settled in. During the first month, Jessica fed it milk from a baby bottle, like she would feed a baby. And after that, we switched to a meat diet, characteristic for a predator. The tiger cub behaved like a pet, fooling around and crashing into things. It was virtually a tame pet. My wife and I became very attached to it, but in our hearts, we understood that sooner or later, we would have to part with it. Lucky grew by leaps and bounds, and just 9 months later, it already weighed almost 50 kilograms and was the size of a large dog. It became more and more difficult to keep it a secret from the prying eyes of the neighbors. But if anyone found out about it, we would definitely have problems, as the tiger was too valuable of a prey. We knew that we had to let Lucky go home, into the endless forest. The parting was very difficult. I took the tiger a little further into the forest, sat down and said, "Run, run, you beautiful thing. Your real home is waiting." Lucky looked at me warmly, but its instincts took over, and it disappeared into the depths of the forest grove in just several jumps, only once turning around as if to say goodbye. This is how my beloved and I saved a tiger cub and gave it a chance at life. And later, I found out the truth about what had happened to the tigress. A couple of months later, I heard from the villagers that the police had arrested a group of poachers who had set up a camp in the forest, and they were arrested under very strange circumstances. One morning, 2 men came out of the forest in one of the neighboring villages. They did not look very well. They were dirty, frightened, shabby, and out of breath. It was clear that they had been running for a long time, headlong. When they were asked about what had happened to them, they could not explain it. Having calmed down a little, the men said that a tiger had attacked their friends in the forest and they needed help. But the locals didn't believe them right away, since none of them had ever seen a live tiger there. And it was hard to believe that it had attacked a man. A little while later, the villagers asked the men to show them to the place where the attack happened. Taking some weapons, just in case, the villagers, together with a doctor and a police officer, followed the unfortunate hunters. An unpleasant picture awaited them in the forest. The tent camp was completely destroyed. Boards, branches, and scraps of tents, as well as clothes and various utensils, were all mixed up, scattered all over the ground. The place looked more like a dump with 2 men groaning in pain lying in the midst of it. The doctor examined them and immediately realized that a large predator had really attacked them. It attacked the camp under the cover of night, when everyone was asleep. 2 men were unlucky, while the rest managed to escape and get to the nearest village. As was later determined, they were all skilled poachers who were engaged in illegal hunting. They were arrested, and their statements were taken. One of them said that a couple of months ago they had tracked down a tigress with 2 cubs. They got one tiger cub and injured the tigress, but it managed to escape with the second cub. And later, it came to the camp to take revenge. Nate was listening to me with his mouth open and could not resist asking in a sleepy voice, "Grandpa Noah, did they all get punished in the end?" Of course, dear. They all got punished according to the law. And maybe some people did not believe in the revenge of the tigress, but I knew for sure that it was protecting its cubs. Now, go to bed. It's time to sleep. Nate fell asleep in a matter of minutes. And the next day, at parting, I wished him for his dream to come true. I sincerely hope that one day he will get to see his beloved animal live.